So if you saw the title of this video, maybe some of you will be shocked, maybe some of you aren't. Regardless, I know I'll probably get flamed pretty hard in the comments, but it is time to move on from my GX550. A lot of things have changed for me in the past year, well, now a year and a half basically of owning this truck, and needed to adapt to new family needs with something different. So this video is basically going to serve as a year and a half review, 10,000 mile review, an overall impression of the GX550, which from everything I've read online and all the different videos I've watched, I think I have a different impression of this truck than many other folks, and hoping to share that with you and get you all better educated about what the GX550 really is, what it excels at, and what its shortfalls are. So really quick background for those of you who might be unfamiliar just with the story here, I'll be real short about this, is basically I owned a 2016 GX460. It was primarily my wife's car. The GX550 was announced. I put our names down as first in the waiting list in our area at the time. So I basically went to the dealer the day it was announced and got our names on the waiting list. And as a result, we were one of the first people in the country to get one. So spent a good deal of time with this truck now over the last year and a half, give or take, and have really gotten to know all the different components of what it excels at and what it struggles with. The other thing I would add is, since we were GX460 owners, I had owned a Toyota Tacoma to that previously. Really loved the Toyota ownership experience and wanted to continue that with the GX550. And I was pretty pleased with it. The other thing I would add is, for our needs at the time, we were GX460 owners. I needed a good snow truck. I also plow my driveway with whatever truck I have. So as you'll see, I have a GX550 snow plowing video to show you how that's done. So I do use the truck for truck-like activities. I tow a bit, and certainly have aspirations of having a little bit more of a country property while I have some land. So I need a truck, a proper truck. I use it like a proper truck. However, it also serves as a family car. So the GX460 worked actually really well as a family truck for us. We had our one son, and he was just an infant at the time when we had that car, but it worked well. There was plenty of space and plenty of room, and it was just a great, safe family truck. But this seemed like a significant evolution to what once was with the GX460. Since the GX460's platform was fairly dated, a full redesign seemed really appealing with the same type of quality and the same Lexus level of detail that we've grown to know and love. Was not, anything else I considered, was definitely not in the market for like a G-Wagon per se. Don't like the image that sends, and also that would stretch my budget too far. And I didn't want anything absolutely massive like a Tahoe or Yukon or anything like that at the time, because it was just the two and becoming three of us, I suppose. So my options for a off-road 5-seater SUV without going down to like the Wrangler or Bronco level are fairly limited in this class, right? I knew the new Toyota Land Cruiser was coming out, but a 4-cylinder hybrid wasn't appealing to me either. So basically, really, the GX550 was packaged really the way I wanted it and put my name on the list. And again, we were one of the first to get it. My other requirement for a vehicle is something that retains its value well. And Lexus and Toyota do this particularly very well, especially the trucks. So from a resale perspective, I don't have much guilt getting a brand new Lexus or Toyota truck, because it will retain its value quite well. And to give you a little bit preview of that, the sticker on this vehicle was $82,900, I believe, when I bought it back in April of 2024. I just accepted a trade-in offer on this vehicle for $82,000. So $900 to use this for a year with 9,000 miles on it, and the wear and tear of a year that's been reflected on the vehicle. So extremely happy with the resale value on it. That is one of the massive advantages the GX550. Probably could have hunted and done a little bit better on that value, but in New York State, where I'm in, it's very beneficial to trade in the vehicle for tax reasons. You don't have to pay sales tax twice. So in order for me to get a fair value price that would actually cover the tax difference as well, I would have had to have sold this privately for over 88 or 89. So I was happy with the 82,000. That was a great deal for me, and we'll talk about what that looked like in a little bit. So overall impressions of the GX550 over Trail Plus after a year and a half of owning it. Basically, this car is the sports car version of an off-road truck. And what do I mean by that? In a sports car, there are compromises that are made to the car itself to give it better performance, to make it more fun to drive, to enhance it overall as the image of a sports car. The GX550 is the same way as an off-road truck. It is an excellent off-road truck, super features packed from that perspective, and probably for the money, the best off-road truck you could get, maybe save a Raptor, which is similarly priced. To go to the next level, like the LX700H with the triple lockers, or G-Wagon with the triple lockers, there's significantly more money and have their own drawbacks as well. So the GX550 is one of the best off-road SUVs on the market, period. The dual lockers, the full-time four-wheel drive, the different drive modes that you have, the Toyota Crawl Control or Lexus Crawl Control, it's fantastic. But as a result of those excellent off-road features, I think as a daily driver, there were certain compromises made, especially on the over-trail models. I've said it a million times, the climate situation on the GX550 over-trail and over-trail plus is egregious. There's really two regular size vents up front, two very small vents up front, and then two vents in the center console in the back. That's it. There's nothing else for the passengers. There's no separate climate control on an $83,000 truck. Terrible. The other challenge, I think, with the GX550 is the packaging. It presents like a mid-size SUV from the exterior perspective. It actually has a great road presence. It looks, honestly, it commands a road presence similar to a G-Wagon. It's very unique. It stands out from the crowd of vehicles, and it looks fantastic when you see it driving on the road, especially in a color like Nori Green, like I have this one optioned. So it's large, or at least, looks mid-size from the outside. In the interior for the seated passengers, it is small. It's small, period. It feels similar to like a RAV4 in here, maybe even smaller sometimes. I don't know. It feels so big from the outside. When you're driving it, you feel really tall. But from an interior perspective, legroom, headroom, all that stuff, well, headroom's fine. But legroom, body room, side to side, it's a struggle for passengers. Even me at 6'1", with a forward-facing car seat behind, my son can kick the seat till he's, happy as he could ever be in my driving position. In larger vehicles like a Chevy Tahoe or a GMC Yukon, I wouldn't have that issue. I don't have that issue. I know that for a fact. The LX700 is frankly similarly sized, so that would probably be a challenge in that vehicle as well. The LX600 or the LX700H, same deal. So it's just a little bit tight in here. That's the reality. Even down to the center console, things you would normally expect in a vehicle like this to have a lot of storage, you really don't. So that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, to the GX550 is interior room and packaging. It's, again, phenomenal for off-roading. It's a fantastic vehicle, and it's designed that way in the inside, right? It's not that nice. It's not super nice, but let's face it, this is a vehicle that's designed purely to be an off-road vehicle and to excel at that. Just like a sports car is designed to excel with performance. So the interior quality doesn't bother me as much, but the packaging and the tightness and the size, because they optimized for the short wheelbase so heavily, this is viewed as the ideal size for an off-road trail. There are compromises that had to be made with the big tires and all the suspension components and the two diffs that tighten up the interior significantly. So some key stats over the course of my ownership for the GX550. Of course, as I mentioned previously, I've owned it for just under a year and a half, driven it for just under 9,000 miles. In terms of recalls or any sort of optional service bulletins, there were a couple. I guess there were no formal recalls, but optional service bulletins. I did have the squeaky brake issue, which was common on the 2024s, but I believe that's been fixed in the 2025s, and that was an easy fix from my local Lexus dealer. I have the hood flutter, which the parts are on back order for, and obviously I'm never going to get it fixed. That wasn't a really big deal to me, but it was one of those things where they issued a fix for it, so I figured, yeah, that's fine with me. Let's get it fixed. And then the last thing was I had the rough shifting transmission, and that's, not uncommon with a lot of these modern automatics, especially 10 speeds. You'll see GM and Ford have a ton of issue with their 10 speeds. This 10 speed in the GX is actually pretty good. But after I would say 7,000 miles, when you would approach a stop and it would drop down to first gear, it would kind of complete that shift or downshift hard. So that was an easy computer refresh, not a big deal to get that all figured out. So the three sort of service bulletin issues weren't that big of a deal. It was easy in and out at the Lexus dealer, but nevertheless they did occur. The other thing I would mention, obviously, this car is not known for its excellent fuel mileage, and that is true in my observations as well. So over the course of my almost 9,000 miles, I've gotten about 13.8 miles to the gallon. Now, the vast majority of that is city miles. We have taken a number of road trips in this vehicle, but nothing to the extent where, that total vehicle average would kind of be overcome. So it's a 13.8 miles per gallon car under my use. So I do know others who have done a bit better, and obviously being the over trail with the thicker tires and everything, it does use a bit more fuel. The other thing I would say is that during my ownership of the GX550, it's actually just been super fun to drive. Because it is on the smaller side and it has plenty of power with those turbochargers, it's very peppy, gets into the torque quickly, and it'll motor around when you need it to. So just as a daily driver, it's actually quite pleasant to drive around. And also because of that smaller size, it is easier to manage in suburban and city settings where I can go into the city and park relatively comfortably because it's quite a bit shorter and narrower than your typical SUV. So I get emotionally attached to my vehicles, and I'm going to miss this GX550. If I could keep it as a fourth car, I would. If I could afford to keep it as a fourth car, I certainly would love to. But 3 cars is already a lot to deal with, so one's got to go. I really could see this being, though, the ultimate weekend vehicle in the sense that you have a people mover around for the day-to-day, the daily driving, but then you take this off if you live somewhere where trails are accessible, there's a lot of public land, there's a beach. This would just be the ultimate off-road vehicle to take around on the weekends, and it would be spectacular. Its shortcomings for me were just the use on a daily basis. I love the truck otherwise, and if I had to keep it, I wouldn't be unhappy, right? It's just gonna make things easier for me to switch it up to something bigger. And so that wraps up this chapter with the GX550. Like I said, I really loved the truck. I do think there are some compromises you make from dailying one, as I covered in the video, but there will be plenty more Lexus and Toyota content coming up, so appreciate everyone's support, subscriptions, and likes as always. Interested to hear your feedback, and please leave a comment. Thanks for watching.